Okay, I have a little bit more time, so I'm going to try. I'm going to do one more of these. We're going to continue on and looking at the past. So I gave a little brief history of like the generations of um, security video cameras, right? Just as a brief recap, we started off with just recording CCTV. Not no outside help. Everything was localized in closed captioning in a closed loop, but it was that recorder, a operator would be watching the entire time. Then we got recordings that we could look back over times. Then we got motion sensing that we were able to be alerted for things instead of like looking through hours of footage. We could be alerted for specific motions. The problem with that is sometimes it would be triggered by rain, wind rustling, spider webs, or animals. So then we got smart detections, which were able to identify people, cars, the system that I really like, and we're going to go into it where I think that to me it seems if I were to put myself in their shoes, I think they're trying to get in this path that I think is going to be the future. I can't be for certain. Wonder if this is actually working. Um, Straight up, I can't be for certain, but I'm going to hypothesize, and I think this is definitely an area that's coming out. Whether they're working on it or not, there's definitely other companies, other interesting companies to look at. So they definitely went into that. Their smart detection also included animals. Obviously, people want to go into different types of animals because people are like, there should be a difference between my pet cat and a bear coming in or deers walking past. Like, obviously, you want a difference of those. But the systems right now do not necessarily go into that high level or that granular. But they've definitely introduced things. So if I were to focus on them, I think just in the last year, they got they were able to actually get so there was people, there was cars, then they got more granular into face detection and license plate recognition. So specific people, specific cars, where you could go person of interest, you could have whitelist, blacklist, you could have a watch list. They had animals. They also have all different audios, which are interesting. But more granular than that, they couldn't get. Then they actually released this product called the AI Key, which was interesting because it was a local LLM that was essentially doing a little bit more computation and finding things that were happening, but still very much on the analytical, like afterwards, like asking questions. I didn't intend to go specifically into Unify, but if I were to go into them, they did release this alarm manager that then tied that together. And that allowed these natural searches that the LLM. So what was this AI key providing? It was providing a lot more processing power, and you could do things like transcription, like transcribe the audio. So you could search through audio. There definitely was a limit based on the hardware over there, but you could adopt multiple of these and have them stacked. So you could look through the audio, it could clean up images, it could do something called re-ID, which you could click on someone's face, and it would kind of look at the entire body, not just the face. It would try to connect everything together and look to see when's the last time it's seen that. So that was very interesting. And then the most interesting of it was it was looking at once you describe a scene, you're able to then look for something a little bit more natural. And this is what we're seeing. So when in their video, when they were releasing it, they were like, oh, you could look for a kid in a red back, with a red jumper, skateboarding. Like, find me those. What I'm seeing is there's a few companies coming out with a similar type of thing. Now they're probably using something called a VLM, a video language model rather than LLM, and it's using a different type of concept, but basically it's analyzing a frame, describing that frame, and then putting that into text, and then you can search through it through kind of like an LLM, but you have now a database of information, and now you can search through it. And there were some really interesting things, and I think this is like kind of cutting edge, and a lot of companies are kind of saying, instead of parameters of like, oh, look for, I have a parameter of a color or a car, which was really, really cool 6 months ago. When my system got that, it was an automatic free update. That was amazing because other systems would charge you an arm and a leg for upgrading to this new update software, or you would have to have new cameras that had this capability. But they were very, very specific. Here, you could go out, like you could ask for anything with a natural language. So things like what people are wearing, what people are doing, it could kind of understand what was happening. There's other players in the market that kind of advertise a little bit more, like look for people jumping the fence, or look for someone that's suspiciously looking in vehicles. And it would go through the footage and be able to find that based on scenes that have been described. This is a very, very strong thing, and I think that the next level, the limitations of this is that it only, again, from what I can see, and part of this process of looking through is discovering companies or products or models, things like that, that already have achieved this or things like that, then I wouldn't have to dive into it. But I'm sharing the journey that I'm on, that I'm looking at, that I'm getting excited about. And I see a huge potential, huge gap in the market that is going to happen. Whether these companies get it or someone else gets it, I think moving from that to be able to just describe what's happening into a scene and to actually find out what's happening, patterns that are unrecognizable. So things like, I looked at briefcam again, an investigative like perspective, but it was looking through, again, identifying patterns, but it was looking things to like paths. You could look, you could the timestamps of different people in one image was condensing lots of search, and they show you how you could use the features to kind of like they have a video like busting a drug house, and it was very interesting how they like segmented cars out. They used all of this was the same. They were using computer vision. They were using a lot of these AI features, and what they would do, what they did over there is part of the investigative, like these were features, these were tools that were given, and they would first segment all the cars out so you could focus on the people. Then it was like, okay, show me hotspots of where people are walking. Then once you do that, show me paths that people are taking. And based on it, they're like, okay, I can see people seem to be maybe moving towards, in this direction. Then they like put an arrow of like, okay, I want you to filter out this path where people are walking on this path. And then they condensed all the people walking on there, and you could just see like a wave of people just walking there at different times, but you're seeing this within like a condensed 5-second clip. Everyone's coming at different times. It could be over days. And this is a pattern that you don't see, but with these tools, they were showing you that there are patterns that human beings do not see necessarily. Unless you're looking and focused, it's very hard to see the connection between people over a week period walking into this one house. That helps the police identify that it's a drug house, right? Too many people, there's an anomaly of how many people are walking in there. But they're showing it how the features help you as a human use your intelligence, cut through the noise, find the patterns, and then identify there's an abnormal amount of people walking in here. I would not see this because this is over a period of a long time, but using these tools, I can condense it, and then the pattern becomes clear. The pattern shows itself, and anyone looking at that footage, those 5 or 10 seconds of multiple people walking into a house and they all look different, it's not like a family, they're all single people, anyone can see that pattern. But it's the tools that this system, this software was using, this computer vision and different features to condense, to find, to unearth those patterns that to any person watching the video goes, I can see the pattern. The pattern is simple. But for a regular person who's sitting there looking at the footage, who's given like a week's worth of footage, would take them, either they wouldn't find it, take them days or hours. Most likely they wouldn't find it, but it would take them a long period of time. But it's showing that there are patterns there that most of us don't see. That was one use case. But there are many other things of different patterns that we don't see, so that go beyond, oh, just show me someone suspiciously looking into a car. Because if there's someone like suspiciously looking in a car, it could mean a variety of things, right? It could be that they've lost their keys and they're trying to see what's happening, or someone left a kid or an animal in a car and they're concerned about it, or they've forgotten what's their car. There could be harmless reasons of why they're doing that. But if I can now trace this pattern over time, I could maybe track that, hey, I've seen this person wearing different clothes at nighttime, looking, before he doesn't look, in these two separate instances, he doesn't look like a threat. But if I put them together and I start putting a pattern together, I can start seeing that threat. So there are a lot of these things that are, I think, contained in the video. And again, we're coming down to it. And I think that we're getting there. It just requires a huge amount of processing power. And I'm sure that there's models or there's different kind of concepts that that might be able to tackle these things in seconds soon. And they're going to be built on the edge, right? Every single camera is going to have this just built in, and the way they're going to talk, you're not going to need huge clusters. Today, I think you need a massive amount, and I have not seen anyone yet that really can identify these patterns. I think like I can see the generation before that, which is like identifying specifically what's in front of you. It can like find behaviors and things, but tracking patterns, subtle patterns over time and over people and over different wearing different things, and based on what they've said and things like that, being able to really identify what's going on. And that's just one example, but to be able to have that all over a site, I haven't seen yet, but I think it's coming. Anyways, I'll continue this in the future.